Hello and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a very rainy and wet Scotland. Of course it's raining. We're in the half-term holidays. I mean, we've had 3 weeks of wall-to-wall sunshine, record-breaking temperatures for the time of the year, and just as we turn to the school holidays, the weather changes and we've got rainfall. However, they're not going to let that spoil the trip in any way, shape or form. So today we've come to somewhere I've never been before, but has been recommended to me, and that is RSPB Troup Head. Now, it was Norman Watson that recommended this to me, and the way that he described it was something that would rival RSPB Bempton Cliffs, because it's a huge gannet colony. So I'm expecting something a little bit Bempton Cliffs-esque in its experience. However, what I would say straight off the bat is that it doesn't have a visitor centre. It has a car park, and a particularly small car park at that. We had to queue to find a space and wait for somebody to leave before we could get in. However, already on the walk here, I've seen yellowhammer, I've seen skylarks, and now we've reached the gorse bushes, I can see lots of linnet. So I'm going to try and get a few photographs of those. So, if gannets and RSPB Troup Head is something that piques your interest, come along for the journey and see what I see. So we've arrived at the cliff edge. Straight away, we've not got that fence that they've got at Bempton. So you're quite vulnerable on the edge of what is quite a precarious cliff ledge. However, yeah, that just makes me feel very nervous. However, the opportunities, I don't know whether you can see, the fulmar are coming so close. It is absolutely insane. And what's really nice is because you're kind of halfway at this point from the cliffs and the headland juts up behind you, you're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting shots from below the subject, but rather than a plain white sky, we've got the Troup Head colours sitting behind it. And then you've got photographs from on top of the subject looking down. And again, giving you those unique perspectives with a really nice background. So one of the things that I'm focusing on at the moment in particular is the fulmar. And the fulmar are doing a circular loop of this bay, and they're getting really close. So what I'm doing is I'm picking up a subject off in the distance, I'm tracking it round, and then I'm photographing it as it's getting close to me here, which is producing some really, really fantastic photographs. I'll see if I can show you what I mean. Now, some of you will be looking at this and thinking, Dan, why on earth have you not got a tripod with you? And I know there are some viewers of the channel that get very triggered when I don't have a strap to carry my camera either. Truth be known, I forgot both of them back at the cottage that we're renting. Oh, look how close that one was coming then. So I'm having to handhold the 400, which is certainly giving me a gym workout, as well as trying to stabilise myself against this wind.
On the edge of a cliff.
On the edge of a cliff. Oh, that was sensational. It flew right at me, right down the camera. It's coming almost down the barrel of the lens, producing some fantastic photographs. weather's turned a little bit on me now. It's really got windy. As you can see, I'm kind of struggling to stay stood upright. And then in addition to that, we've got some really fine drizzle, but it's absolutely murder to be able to photograph in. The minute I turn the camera towards the direction of the wind, the lens is just getting absolutely pitted with it. So I'm having to be very cautious of where I point the camera. However, I've come to another part of Troup Head here, and the gannetry is huge. I'll turn the camera around in a moment just so I can get you some of the vista that I can see in front of me. What I'm trying to do here, which is very different from what I've experienced at Bempton Cliffs, and the whole time that I'm here, that's what I'm being mindful of. Is that a shot that you could have got at Bempton Cliffs? If the answer is yes, probably need to get something different. And so we've got some really nice coloration in the cliffs here, and there's some reds and oranges in amongst the green that make up the cliff face, and that's a lovely contrasty colour against the gannets. So what I'm doing is exactly the same way as I was focusing on the fulmar before. I'm looking and picking out a gannet that I believe is coming into this little tiny bay. Now what tends to happen is they swing out towards the sea, and then they bank in and they swerve in and they cut in quite close to this cliff edge. And that's producing some fantastic opportunities to get some lovely portraits of the gannets in flight, but with a really nice different background. Lots of those different orange colours, and of course the cliff face is littered with gannet, which is going to make some really nice bokeh effect in the photograph. So I'm going to turn the camera around, give you a bit of an idea of what I'm looking at, and then I'll explain how I'm getting those photographs. So you can see we've got ahead of us here this cliff face that I'm talking about, with some lovely coloration in it. So it's got some really nice oranges and reds in amongst the gannets, and you've got those greens also. So what I'm looking for is a gannet, just as this one's done here, banked round, and then it swings around across in front of the cliff face. Now if those gannets have got bedding material, so they've got some grass that they've pulled up, just as that one has there, that makes an even better photograph. So they're the birds that I'm trying to constantly look for as I'm looking out across the water. So shutter speeds, you've got to be quite fast shutter speed for this. I'm shooting at around 2,000th of a second, and then in addition to that I'm shooting at f4, so I'm not wide open at 2.8, I'm shooting at f4, give me a little bit of extra depth of field, but enough to be able to blur out that background, because I don't want the definition of the background of the gannets and the cliffs. I want that to create a nice rich textured background with some lovely coloration in it. So I'm going to just crack on and see what I can get. Now there are a lot of steps to get to the top of Troup Head, but oh my word, would you just look at this? The view is spectacular, absolutely spectacular. And you know what, even with the weather being as it is, it actually creates some drama in the skies, which is really nice to look at. It is stunning, it's absolutely stunning. I've never kind of admitted to it before on this channel, but I have got a little bit of vertigo. That's probably an understatement. I've got a lot of vertigo. I get really fearful on the edge of cliffs. I get even more fearful when other people are on the edge of cliffs. I don't know what it is. I'm more fearful of other people than I am of myself. And so there was a huge coach party of what I believe were possibly Italians, listening to their accent, and they weren't fearful of the cliff edge at all. And that just built my anxiety through the roof. So I've had to come away from that area for my own sanity and find a little bit of solitude, and I've done that on top of Troup Head. And what I've got at the moment, and it's absolutely beautiful, is skylarks, and they're constantly surrounding. They're never really coming close enough for a photograph, but I've mentioned it before on this channel. The song of skylarks is quite possibly one of my favourite. It's absolutely beautiful, and there is a cacophony of skylark song all around me, which is just beautiful to listen to, and definitely eases my anxiety about people being near the cliff edge. Now, when you come to RSPB reserves, such as this and Bempton Cliffs, there are certain subjects you expect to see: the gannets, the fulmars, the kittiwakes, the razorbills, the guillemots, the puffins, you know, all your kind of stereotypical coastland wildlife. What you don't expect to see, and what I've just seen, is a badger. A badger working the cliff tops. I've got no doubt that that badger is probably on the lookout for bird eggs, and he's probably raiding nests. Why not? What a fantastic opportunity, but not something I'd ever expected to see on the cliff tops. I've got a record shot, which I'll pop up on the screen now for you to see, if you can hear me over this incredibly strong wind. What a truly remarkable encounter that was. I've just had a yellowhammer, and you can probably hear them calling to the side. This one landed on the fence in front of me. I lifted the camera and it pretty much took off straight away. I thought, oh, another missed shot. I've never really got a decent shot of a yellowhammer. And then it landed on a foxglove, which was just beautifully framed. There was a foxglove that was unobstructed, which I got it on at the start, which will look nice and it might be the better shot. But then it landed on a foxglove that was lower down in the valley, and it was slightly obscured by foliage in the foreground, which has meant that it's framed it beautifully. If they look as good on the computer as they do on the back of the camera, that's going to be an absolutely magical shot. Fingers crossed. Back at the car, and not dinky do. You're probably thinking, my God, that lad must be earning an absolute fortune off YouTube, driving around in a Mercedes Benz. I wish. Dinky Doo has broken down yet again. He seems to be breaking down every other week, unfortunately. So my brother and sister-in-law have very kindly lent us them brand new Mercedes-Benz 4x4 to come away into Scotland. We're driving around like we're royalty. It's unbelievable. It's a beautiful car to drive. And you know, if this channel was all about being a petrol head, I'd probably go through all the different mod cons that this vehicle has got, because it's absolutely stunning. Well, Troup Head, wow, absolutely surpassed itself. I wasn't quite sure what to expect when I came here today. I think I was expecting something similar to Bempton Cliffs, and it has some similarities to Bempton Cliffs. You know, it has the same kind of cliff tops and the cliff top bird life that you're so accustomed to at Bempton Cliffs. The big difference though is there's no fences, so you take your life into your own hands going on those cliff tops, and the wind is gusty as anything today, and I'm going to keep that as my excuse for not getting too close to the edge. It had nothing to do with the fact that I was terrified, I promise you. However, I have had some fantastic wildlife encounters, from the gannets and the fulmars to the badger and the yellowhammer. I mean, just two species I wasn't intending to photograph today, but I've certainly got some fantastic photographs of, and I'm absolutely convinced when I get those back on the camera, on the computer, there's going to be something there that I'm quite proud of the day. Even if there's not though, it's been a wonderful day out in the fresh air. You know, the weather at times has been absolutely horrid, but I enjoy being out all the same. So if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you're not yet subscribed, please consider doing so. Loads of people who watch these videos, around 40%, are not subscribers. Costs you absolutely nothing, does wonders for the channel. You want to show that little bit of extra support? We've got to buy me a coffee, link will be at the bottom. So from the wonderfully windy, gusty, beautiful Troup Head, until next time, ta-ra.